I still remember the way Suzanne smiled at him. We were sitting in a crowded downtown restaurant, the kind with dim lighting that makes everyone look a little better than they really are. Suzanne laughed at something the waiter said and leaned closer to him, touching his arm like it was the most natural thing in the world. I sat across the table watching it happen, feeling invisible. When the waiter walked away, she didn't even look embarrassed. She just picked up her phone and casually asked me if I was done eating. The argument started later that night in our kitchen. I told her how humiliating it felt watching my own wife flirt with strangers. She immediately snapped back, saying I was insecure and paranoid. Then she added something that stuck with me all night. She said, maybe if I took better care of myself, maybe if I lost some weight, I wouldn't feel so threatened by other men. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what she said. Around 3 in the morning, I picked up my phone and searched for fast ways to lose weight. That's when I found a website selling Ozempic without a prescription. It looked suspicious, but at that moment, I didn't care. I placed the order anyway. The package arrived a few days later. I remember holding the injector in my hands and thinking this was the start of a new version of me. The changes came quickly. Every morning, the number on the scale dropped. At first, it felt amazing, like I was finally fixing everything that was wrong with me. Suzanne noticed within a week. She told me my face looked thinner. She smiled at me again, and that smile felt like a reward. It pushed me deeper into the obsession. Soon, food started to disgust me. Even the smell of it made my stomach twist. Sleep slowly disappeared. I started waking up several times every night with my heart racing. I would walk to the bathroom and step on the scale again just to make sure the number was still going down. If it didn't change, panic would crawl up my spine. Then something strange started happening. One night, I woke up on the cold bathroom floor. My head was pounding, and I had no memory of how I got there. When I looked in the mirror, I noticed dried blood around my mouth and scratches across my stomach. When I looked at myself in the mirror now, it didn't look like healthy weight loss anymore. My eyes were sunken and my skin looked thin and pale. But I kept telling myself this was the price of becoming someone Suzanne would finally want. One morning at work, I suddenly collapsed. My hands were shaking and the room started spinning. The next thing I remembered was waking up in a hospital bed, surrounded by bright white lights and the quiet beeping of machines. The doctor explained that my body was no longer burning fat. Instead, it had started breaking down muscle just to survive. Hearing those words finally made me realize something terrifying. I had nearly destroyed my own body just to earn someone else's approval. By the time I found the telegram post, 4 different doctors had already refused to prescribe the medication. Each appointment felt the same. They looked at my chart, asked a few questions, and then told me I should try lifestyle changes first. Diet, exercise, patience. One of them even smiled while saying it, like he was doing me a favor. But patience is difficult when you spend your entire life hearing people joke about your body. The internet wasn't much better. I made the mistake of posting in an online weight loss forum asking for advice. Within minutes, the replies turned into jokes. People posted memes and screenshots, laughing about my size like I was some kind of entertainment. I closed the laptop, feeling smaller than I had ever felt before. That night, while scrolling through messages on my phone, I saw something that made me stop. A short post in a private group. Authentic Ozempic, no prescription, half price. I stared at the message for a long time before typing a reply. Part of me knew it was risky, maybe even illegal, but another part of me felt desperate enough not to care. The seller responded almost instantly, like he had been waiting for someone to ask. Cash only, meet tonight, downtown alley behind a closed pawn shop. As I read the message again, a quiet warning voice in my mind told me this was a bad idea. But desperation has a strange way of convincing you that bad ideas are worth the risk. When I arrived at the alley, the place smelled like garbage and damp concrete. Trash bags were stacked against the brick walls, and something rustled inside them. A broken streetlight buzzed overhead. I stood there, checking my phone again and again, wondering if I should just leave. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Two men stepped out from the shadows near a dumpster, blocking the exit of the alley. I hadn't heard them approach. One of them smiled slowly, while the other kept his hands buried in his jacket pockets. The smiling one looked directly at me and said my name. Hearing it made my stomach drop instantly. I had never told the seller my real name. Somehow they already knew exactly who I was. They stepped closer and began mocking me, joking about my weight and asking how badly I wanted to lose it. One of them poked my stomach and laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. That's when I realized something was very wrong. They took my wallet first, then my phone, then my backpack. I kept telling myself that once they had what they wanted, they would leave. But instead, the quiet one reached into his pocket and pulled out a syringe. He told me if I didn't pay more money, he would inject me with whatever was inside that needle and leave me there to deal with the consequences. At that moment, I realized they had never planned to sell anything. They were hunting desperate people. Then, somewhere in the distance, a police siren echoed through the street. They hesitated for a second, and that was all the chance I needed to run. I was the only one who said no. The three of us had moved to New York together, chasing the same dream. Emily, Brooke, and I shared a small apartment with cracked ceilings and windows that looked out over crowded city streets. We all wanted the same future: modeling contracts, runway shows, and our faces on billboards. When Emily announced she had finally gotten an Ozempic prescription, she said it like it was an achievement. Brooke congratulated her immediately. They talked about weight goals and casting calls, like it was part of their career strategy. They asked if I wanted to join them. I told them no. I wanted to lose weight slowly and naturally. Emily laughed and said normal methods were too slow for this industry. At first, it seemed harmless. Emily and Brooke decided to share the medication to save money. They even made a chart on the fridge showing which day each of them would take the injection. Soon, their eating habits began to change. Meals became smaller and smaller. Sometimes dinner was just fruit or coffee. They laughed about it at first, like it was part of their discipline. But the atmosphere slowly started to change. They began comparing their bodies constantly. If one lost more weight that week, the other became quiet and tense. Emily grew obsessed with control. I heard her stepping on the bathroom scale again and again late at night. Sometimes the scraping sound of the scale against the tile floor would wake me up. Brooke reacted differently. She became secretive. One night I walked into the bathroom and caught her using the injector, even though it wasn't her scheduled day. The tension between them grew worse every week. Compliments turned into accusations. They started watching each other like competitors instead of friends. Then, one gray Thursday morning, I found Brooke lying on the bathroom floor next to the scale. The room was quiet, except for the sound of traffic outside the window. Later, when the police checked the hallway camera, they discovered something none of us expected. At 3:17 in the morning, Emily had walked into the bathroom while sleepwalking, holding the injector. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe my channel. See you on next videos. Till then, goodbye.